Right now, somewhere, someone is cranking a guitar riff that makes their neighbors nervous. Maybe it's you. That low, grinding, slightly off sound that makes horror movie directors and metalheads equally happy. You know it the second you hear it. It just sounds wrong in the best way. Here's the reframe. That sound isn't some random studio trick a guitarist stumbled into in the 1970s. It's built on a musical relationship so old, so specifically unsettling to the human ear that entire institutions once tried to ban it, not discourage it, ban it. We're talking about an interval, a gap between two notes that shows up in cathedral chants from 1,000 years ago, in warnings scrawled by medieval music theorists, and then, centuries later, in Black Sabbath's very first song. Same sound, same discomfort, different codpiece. The question is, how did one specific combination of two notes end up wired into the human brain as danger, and why did rock musicians go digging for it on purpose? To get there, we have to go back not to the 1970s, not even to the Renaissance, but to somewhere around the 11th century, to a monk named Guido of Arezzo. Guido wasn't trying to invent evil music. He was trying to solve a boring, practical problem. How do you teach choirs to sing the right notes without modern sheet music? His solution became the foundation of the musical scale we still use today, the do-re-mi system, more or less. But in solving that problem, Guido and the theorists who came after him ran into a specific interval that kept causing trouble. Take the note F, now go up to be that gap, technically 3 whole steps, which is why it's called a tritone, sounds unstable, restless, like it's straining to resolve into something else. Medieval music theorists gave it a nickname that stuck for the next 1,000 years, Diabolus in Musica, the devil in music. Here's what makes this so important. This wasn't poetic flair. Church musicians were told seriously to avoid the tritone in sacred compositions. Some later treatises framed it as something you simply did not write because of the discomfort it created in listeners trained on resolved, stable harmony. Whether it was ever formally, universally banned by decree is debated by musicologists, but the reputation was real and it stuck for centuries. Think about that. A single combination of two notes carried a reputation for danger that outlived the empires that feared it. But here's the thing, why would a gap between two notes feel evil in the first place? This isn't superstition, it's math meeting biology. Most pleasant-sounding musical intervals, a fifth and octave, have simple mathematical ratios between their sound wave frequencies. Your brain processes them quickly and cleanly, and that ease reads as consonant or pleasant. The tritone splits the octave exactly in half. It has no clean resolution point. Your ear hears it and immediately wants it to move somewhere, up, down, anywhere, because it can't settle. That unresolved tension is the exact same mechanism your body uses to process real danger signals. Ambiguity, unpredictability, something not quite right. Composers writing horror scores today lean on this constantly, and they didn't invent the trick. They inherited it. Same interval, same discomfort, 1,000 years apart. That's a monk's scale teaching problem turned into humanity's go-to sound for dread. For a long stretch after the medieval period, the tritone didn't disappear, it just got domesticated. Classical composers found ways to use it inside resolution, set up the tension, then release it. Bach used it, Beethoven used it. It became a tool for drama, not a taboo. But the raw, unresolved, leave-it-hanging version, the one that just sits there being unsettling, mostly stayed out of popular music for a long time. Pop and folk melodies of the early 20th century leaned on friendlier intervals. The tritone was still in the toolbox. Nobody was reaching for it on purpose to make something sound frightening in mainstream music yet. That changes fast once we hit the era of amplification. Fast forward to industrial Birmingham, England in the 1960s. A teenager named Tony Iommi is working a factory job operating a sheet metal machine. He has an accident. The tips of 2 fingers on his fretting hand get badly injured. For most guitarists, that's career over. Iommi doesn't quit. Instead, he adapts lighter strings, homemade fingertip caps, and crucially, he starts tuning his guitar down, loosening the strings so they're easier to press with a damaged hand. That single practical fix changed everything about how his riffs would sound. Lower, heavier, more ominous by accident before it was ominous on purpose. And in 1970, his band Black Sabbath needed an opening for their self-titled debut track. Iommi later described drawing on that old, unsettling interval, inspired partly by the eerie feeling of a horror film score. He played the 2 notes, F then B, the tritone. The devil's interval cracked back open on an electric guitar in a British rehearsal room, 600 years after the church tried to bury it. That riff, slow, heavy, dissonant, is widely treated by music historians as one of the founding sounds of heavy metal as a genre. Here's what makes this so important. An interval theorists once tried to erase from sacred music became, centuries later, the literal opening notes of an entire genre built to sound dangerous on purpose. But the tritone alone doesn't explain the whole evil effect, because at the exact same time, rock musicians were discovering something else, distortion. Turn a guitar amp up past its clean limit, and the sound wave stops being a smooth curve. It starts clipping, getting jagged and harsh. That harshness isn't a flaw. It adds extra overtones, extra roughness, extra grit that your ear reads as aggressive, even threatening. Combine an an unresolved, unstable interval with a jagged, overloaded tone, and you're stacking two separate danger signals from two completely different sources, one from centuries-old harmonic theory, one from raw physics of overloaded electronics, on top of each other at the same time in the same 3 seconds of music. That's not an accident of taste, that's basically an engineering formula for dread. Here's the part that goes even deeper than music theory. Humans didn't need Guido of Arezzo to teach them that certain sounds mean danger. Low-frequency rumbles, growls, and dissonant clashing tones have been threat signals for a very, very long time. They resemble the sounds of predators, thunder, structural collapse, things actually worth fearing. Researchers studying sound and emotion have long noted that dissonant, unresolved harmonies reliably trigger tension responses across cultures, even in listeners with no formal music training. You don't need to know what a tritone is to flinch at one. Your nervous system was primed for that reaction long before anyone wrote it down as diabolus in musica. So when a metal band stacks the tritone, heavy distortion, and low guitar tunings together, they're not inventing a new fear response. They're pulling 3 separate levers: ancient harmonic instinct, cross-cultural threat sound recognition, and raw acoustic aggression, and pulling them all at once. Think about that. The evil sound in metal isn't one trick. It's at least 3 overlapping ones, some of them older than written language. When Sabbath cracked it open, other bands went looking for the same well. Metal guitarists across the following decades openly built riffs around the tritone and its cousins, deliberately dissonant intervals used for tension, dread, or aggression. It shows up across thrash, death metal, doom metal, black metal, different flavors. Same underlying trick borrowed from a monk's forbidden interval. And it wasn't limited to metal either. Film composers scoring horror and thriller movies reach for the same tension constantly, for the same reason church musicians avoided it 1,000 years earlier. It makes an audience uneasy without a single word being spoken. But here's the twist in metal: that unease isn't a bug, it's the point. Fans aren't accidentally stumbling into discomfort, they're chasing it. The same tension that got an interval nicknamed the devil became, centuries later, something millions of people pay to feel on purpose in a packed arena. A monk trying to teach choir students accidentally identifies the most unsettling interval in Western music. Church theorists spend centuries trying to bury it. It survives anyway, tucked into classical tension and release. A factory accident in Birmingham forces a guitarist to detune his instrument. That same guitarist reaches for the buried, feared interval to open a song and accidentally opens a genre. Distortion physics piles a second layer of danger on top of the first. And underneath all of it, human brains were already wired long before any of this to read unresolved, jagged, rumbling sound as threat. That's the full chain: a 1,000-year-old theological taboo, a workplace injury, an amplifier pushed past its limit, and hardwired human instinct, all collapsing into 3 seconds of guitar riff. So next time that riff comes on and your chest tightens just slightly before your brain even knows why, that's not the band tricking you. That's 1,000 years of music history and however many thousand years of survival instinct, both agreeing on the exact same thing: something about this sound means pay attention. Turns out the devil's interval never needed hell to feel dangerous. It just needed a factory accident, a loud amplifier, and a species that never stopped being afraid of the dark. And every time that riff plays again, it proves the same point all over: some fears are just too old to outgrow.